Welcome, everybody. I see that there are still people coming in, but I suggest that we start. So, welcome to the EU-FarmBook online training session, specifically on video compression for uploading. I'll be my own guest today to explain you a bit more. But before we get started on the topic of today, just a brief message. So first of all, this session is one session in a series of online training sessions. These will happen on a monthly basis, and you will be able to check the recordings then afterwards as well. They will be on different topics that will be announced beforehand, but we recommend going to the EU-FarmBook website so that you can actually have a good view on this. This webinar is being recorded. So it's a webinar format, which means that you are not being filmed. You're not identifiable. All of the questions that you will have that you can ask in the chat, and I already see that some people are asking a question with regards to the audio. Normally, I see that the microphone on my screen is working, so you should be hearing me. So the questions you are able to ask them in the chat. They will all come through me, and I will try to answer them as best as possible. If your question cannot be answered at this time, we will try to get back to that at a later point or communicate through different channels about the answer. Then I suggest that we get started. What is on the agenda for today? First of all, I'll explain a bit the goal of today's session. Also, why do you actually need to compress a video? What kind of video compression software there is. We're going to discuss specifically the video compression software called Handbrake. I'll also touch upon some other softwares, but yeah, we're using for the sake of this one, Handbrake. How to compress actually a video for uploading. There is a lot of questions about this, because for the moment on the platform, we put a limit of 150 megabytes for uploading. And I'll try to answer in why you compress a video, why we also put that limit, and why it's actually good for you to compress. Then we have a small summary and a Q&A. So the goal of today is actually how can I make sure that the video I want to upload is having the correct technical characteristics. I will touch upon that later in this session. What kind of software can you use actually to prepare the video content for compression? And how do I make sure that the video is not too large for EU-FarmBook visitors to stream it? I think regarding the latest point, when we touch upon the topic of why you need to compress a video, first of all, there's a decrease in uploading time for you. So very often, if you are uploading something and you have an unstable internet connection, it's good that you don't upload a file which is too large, because that would increase the chances of not being able to upload it properly. But if a file is very large for you to upload, very often, if there is no compression specifically added, for instance, as YouTube does, then it will become very heavy actually for the viewer to download it as well. And if a viewer has an unstable internet connection, because, well, they're maybe on the bus, they're using 4G, 3G, then they're not going to be able to download it very well, and they're not going to have a very nice user experience there. So it decreases the downloading time for the viewer. Now, another thing is also that video compression has become a standard practice. So as I mentioned, YouTube tends to do this as well. The moment that you upload a raw video, for instance, on YouTube, they add some compression to make sure that this is represented as much in a similar way to everyone, but that it's also very easy to download. And the last point, not so unimportant, is actually that it's quite ecological. So the less data that you put on the internet, the less consuming it is for servers to actually deal with this. So it's both ecological and also economical. Now, when we look towards the video compression software, the one that we are suggesting for the moment, but you are very welcome to use any kind of other software, is actually Handbrake. So why do we recommend Handbrake? First of all, it's free. It's open source. So that means that you can easily download it. It's available everywhere. And it's supported over multiple operating systems. So whether you're working on Mac, on Macintosh operating system, on Windows, or even Linux, normally Handbrake is supported on all those platforms. And another one reason, which is also very important, is actually it does provide really good results, as I will show you afterwards. Now, what are some other compression softwares that you can use? A paid service, which is quite famous also because people use it for editing videos, is Adobe Premiere. I will touch upon it briefly afterwards. What are the settings that you can specifically use for Adobe Premiere? But you can also use, for instance, any video converter, and I can show you some other ways of finding video converters. The main advantage of some of these is actually that you download them onto your computer and you don't have to upload a video on the internet, which is then being converted. Now, let me get into the Handbrake demo. First of all, if you want to get Handbrake, the thing that you just have to do is you go to handbrake.fr, where you basically see that it's an open source video transcoder. You can have it here, for instance, for OS, but you also have it for these other operating systems. So it's quite handy. You can go through the specific features. There's also a community, there's a forum, so you can easily get a lot of information on this. Now, if I go specifically to Handbrake, so I've opened it up, I've installed it, and now I say, well, I have a video. So I prepared one specifically video compression, a test video for FarmBook. If I go through the specs, I recorded this yesterday. The video says it's a QuickTime video and it's about 208 megabytes, which means that it's actually too large to upload onto the EU-FarmBook. I don't know this person at all, but one of the things that we will do, for instance, when we've uploaded this, we can already see a bit the specs for the source. So it says, okay, 20, these are the dimensions. These are the frames per second. So when we say, for instance, okay, we want to compress it, one of the things we can do is we actually have to choose the format. We tend to choose MP4 because it's really widely recognized. One of the things we will also do is specifically select the web optimized. And another element, which is then quite important, is when we go to video, there is this element here, which is called constant quality. Now, when constant quality is not on 27 or 28, it means that it consumes more data. So if we put this, for instance, to 27, then we actually have a nice resolution still, and it still works. So if I now go back to the summary, say, well, this is actually quite good for me. I want to start. So it tells me also this will be saved to your drive, specifically in movies. If I say, okay, you can add this to the queue, start the queue, then it is currently encoding the job. So you can see that it goes quite fast. And voila, it is done. So if I now go to my viewer, you can see here, for instance, that this is the original video. It's 208 megabytes. If I now go to my video, to my movies file, I can now see that there is a similar video, and it's actually 3.8 megabytes. So that's actually quite handy. I can see if I can upload it. So this is a test video, and voila. So normally the video itself is, there's not that much loss in quality when you do this. Also because very often systems are actually not interested, or viewers are not interested in completely uncompressed videos. So that is essentially it for Handbrake. Now, there are some other tools that you could use. I'll quickly go through, for instance, the same one in Premiere. So in this case, I've imported the same video into Adobe Premiere. There, basically, you can edit all that you want. But when we go to the export, one of the things that you want to do is you want to highlight, for instance, that you want to prepare it for YouTube. So when you prepare it for YouTube, it will actually make sure that everything is quite nice, that it's also already done specifically for the encoding. And as you will see here, it estimates actually that the file size is 28 megabytes. So this is also quite acceptable, which means that if you do something like this, you can already estimate, for instance, how large the file will be. And then you can see, for instance, if you still need to adjust some of the specs. Now, if I go back to my presentation, maybe one of the things that I still need to show you, for instance, is that if you go on YouTube, on Google, you can actually search video compression software, and then you will see that there are different kinds of software. So you have Handbrake, any video converter. You also have VLC, which is a player. It's a very popular one, but it actually, as far as I know, does not do compression. There's also, for instance, specific software that you have sometimes on Mac. You have iMovie, etc. So you can also use those kinds of software. Now, if I go back to my presentation, if we look at the specific settings for Handbrake, what I showed you is we want to have an MP4. Specifically, we want to enable the option for web optimized. The video encoder is an H.264. It's an encoder, it's a very specific encoder, but it's widely recognized. The frame rate per second, we want to have it at 30, but the quality, the constant quality, we want to have it at 2728. For Adobe Premiere, if you want to have a similar result, what you do is you select MP4. The option for YouTube has to be enabled. You can also choose the same video encoder. The frame rate that it will select for you then is 24. And for the quality, you ask it to actually match the source with an adaptive high bitrate. So then, because also Adobe Premiere is professional software, you will probably get a better result. Now, there's also a manual that we have prepared, and we will put it for download quite soon, actually, where you can easily see where you have to go to download the software, that you can download it, and what are the specific specs that you need to add. And then shortly, to give you a brief summary, this is also quite a brief session. The video compression, the reason why you should do it is actually because it's in the benefit of the uploader, the viewer, and the internet. There is free software available, but you choose which one you like. But you always try to optimize the video for web, for uploading on the web. We have a manual for this and this presentation that will be available after this session. And if there's anything else, I would say camera's ready and ready for action. Now, I will have a look at the chat and the Q&A. Can you modify videos, for example, add text with Handbrake, or is it only used for compression? That's a good question. I've never checked this specifically with Handbrake. We could try to see if there's a specific session that we do for that. There are other kinds of software that you can use. Generally, you have to use your text. You have to create a text file where you, for instance, have specific translations that you add per second, for instance, and then basically it adds it. So I can check this out specifically. Then I want to see if there are any more questions. I don't see any specific questions popping up. Okay, I see another question. So the other question is actually about YouTube videos. Can you actually just copy the link to YouTube video, or must I replace the video or re-upload the video? So this is a question that we get a lot. We know that for certain projects there will not be the raw video file or the authentic file available. So some of them will actually have the YouTube link. And we will provide an option where you can add the video, the YouTube link to be presented on the EU-FarmBook. Now there is the question whether this will be a sustainable element, specifically because we know that YouTube does delete videos that are not popular after a certain time. So we do need to see, for instance, if that is then the most sustainable solution. The best thing will actually be that you simply re-upload the video on our platform and that you use some compression. We do not recommend that you first download it from YouTube and then re-upload it, because it is relatively unclear whether normally you still remain the owner of a video that you've uploaded on YouTube, but it is unclear about the redistribution after you've uploaded it and then downloaded it from YouTube. So also the requirements for uploading. I need to see specifically what is meant with requirements for uploading. Normally, the main requirement for uploading onto the EU-FarmBook at the moment for videos is that the file is under 150 megabytes. We are working on ways to increase the size of this. The main reason for this is that through the platform that we've created, there is sometimes an issue that if the file is too large and the internet connection is unstable, that the uploading is aborted. So this is mainly the reason for this is actually to improve the user friendliness of the platform for the uploader. So for the moment, if you have a file which is really above 150, it might be possible that we do this through an EU-FarmBook ambassador. But the best thing would always be that it is compressed, and if then it's still really over 150 megabytes, then it's best to actually contact the ambassador for your member state. Can we link to a video we have uploaded to Zenodo? Normally, we do not specifically import things that have been uploaded to Zenodo. If you simply want to upload the link and we are able to embed it, that is good. Normally, it would be best for us if we can ingest the video, because then we can also run specific analysis on it. But if you say, for instance, I simply want to have the link there, then yeah, that will also be a possibility. Okay. I think those are all the questions that I have coming in. Now, if there are still other questions, don't hesitate to actually contact us through the EU-FarmBook website, where there's a contact page, or through the platform specifically, where there's also a contact form. We will also have these sessions online every month, so there will be topics on this again in the future. So don't hesitate to actually register again for new sessions. Keep following the page on training sessions on the platform. And yes, reach out to our ambassadors with any questions you have as well. So I will thank you for your attention today, and I hope to see you again at another training session in the future. Have a nice day.